Well, let me just say this to get this right up front. I'm pretty sure that what I'm about to say is going to cause some people to get mad at me. I feel like I'm at home. I will be probably called a rhino, which means Republican in name only, or maybe worse. Feel free, go ahead, call me what you want. I promise you that you can't call me anything worse than stuff I've been called for the past 33 years since I've been in politics. But it's because of my involvement in some hard-fought political battles that I'm about to offer you a perspective about the disgraceful meltdown at the House of Representatives this week in Washington. Now, unless you have been lost in a dark cave all week long, I'm sure you already know that House Speaker Kevin McCarthy was ousted this week. Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida, who I've supported in the past and even held 2 fundraiser events in my home for his election, led 7 other Republicans to join with Nancy Pelosi, AOC, the Squad, Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler, Maxine Waters, and the entire unanimous Democrat caucus to put the hit on Kevin McCarthy. Gaetz invoked an ill-designed rule that was part of the deal for McCarthy to become Speaker, in which only one member of the 435-member chamber could call for a vote to vacate the Speaker's office. Gaetz found 7 Republicans who disliked McCarthy enough that they were willing to blow up the House, but to do so, they had to make a deal with the devil. You see, the entire Democrat caucus was joyfully willing to help the tiny band of the Gaetz gang to show McCarthy the door. Gaetz boasted that he was just more principled and pure than the Republicans who did not care for the process of publicly firing the Speaker, which is, by the way, the first time in American history it's ever happened. But let's do the math on this. 210 Republicans voted to not take a ride in the clown car and begged the Democrats for the gas to take the trip. 210. Matt Gaetz persuaded all of 7 Republicans. That's right, 7. One might think if his ideas were so superior, he could surely get a larger number of his own party's colleagues to follow him. But he couldn't. He got 7. That's 4% of his Republican caucus, 2% of the 435 members total in the House. So if you think that those 8 Republicans are the only real conservatives in Congress, then you're going to have to label Jim Jordan, Steve Scalise, James Comer, Thomas Massey, Darrell Issa, Burgess Owens, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mark Green, Byron Donalds, our guest John Rose, and about 200 more Republicans as being weak-kneed rhinos, which would be utter nonsense given that most of the Conservative Freedom Caucus voted with the 210, and they did not join the Democrats and Matt Gaetz for the coup d'etat of the Speaker. Let me be real clear. Politics isn't algebra, and it's not trigonometry. It is very simple math. 50% plus 1 wins. Less than that, loses. But if you've got to recruit your enemy to get you over the 50%, you're going to get what you want, which in this case was not just the ouster of a speaker, it's getting power by giving power to the party that twice impeached Donald Trump for nothing, that supports abortion up until birth, that supports a wide open border and shutting down our own energy resources so we can go and beg hostile governments for fuel, and which believes in mutilating children in the name of the nonsensical transgender travesty. Those were the allies that Matt Gaetz partnered with in the guise of being a more pure and a more patriotic Republican than 210 of his teammates. Hey, Kevin McCarthy isn't perfect. Maybe he didn't carry out all the agenda that he promised, but he was working with a razor-thin majority with some to his left and some to his right. And then a Democrat-controlled Senate that would pretty much deep six whatever he could get passed and sent to the Senate. And a completely addled and befuddled president who would veto any bill that Republicans liked, whether he understood it or not. And he probably wouldn't. Look, I don't agree with the socialist far-left agenda of the Democrats, but I got to admire how they publicly stick together and play team ball. Here's the fact. If you want to be a leader, you got to convince people to follow. And when you can only command the following of 4% of your own team, and you've got to ask the opposing team to help you break the legs of your own quarterback because you don't like the plays he calls, you might want to ask if your actions were really principled leadership or a personal and petulant tantrum that accomplished nothing but the disgust of your teammates, but the deep appreciation of your opponents. If we really do want to change the country, folks, we just have to do better than that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I hope you will now. The button is just below this video, and there's a little bell next to it. If you click on those, YouTube will reluctantly start letting you know when we've got a new video uploaded.